Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is featuring some products from the newest Picket Fence Studios release. This is the, such a cute image, it's called Sweet Sweet Deer. And then I'm also using the connected circle shaker dies. I showed you two different sizes because I wasn't sure which one I was going to use. And then I am making a shaker card. The background is watermelon nectar. This is their foam tape. So I have a piece here that has a piece of wax paper on the back, but it comes in this huge roll. And it is a huge roll, but it's super helpful. This is kind of embarrassing, but I'm going to tell you anyway, because you know me, I'm transparent. I'm the realest of the real. So when we moved, I had to have in the Kelly's Critter Cottage, I had to have a toilet paper holder, like a freestanding one, because there wasn't a mounted one in there. And so then when we moved here, I no longer needed it. So we were just going to put it in the trash. And then when I got this enormous, like when I buy the enormous rolls of foam tape, I just put it on the toilet paper holder. It's under my desk. My toilet paper holder is under my desk holding my phone, holding my big rolls of foam tape. But it works, and I didn't have to spend any extra money. So anyway, let's go back to the card. So here, these are very interesting. And Picket Fence actually has a lot of them, and I was not aware. These are, they're called seamless backgrounds, and basically it comes in a 4x4, but every single side of the image lines up with itself. So you can stamp this to create a continuous background, no matter which way you stamp it. I did find here, you'll be able to see my little curlies on the side of my hair. Because I did find to line it up, I kind of needed to stand up and look down at it. But once I did that, I didn't really have too many issues lining it up. And then I was able to stamp the entirety of my background with these adorable little watermelons. But they have a bunch of other ones. And there's one specifically that I'm actually going to try to pick up. It's like an ice cream scoop one. It's like a vintage ice cream thing. And I have not seen that before. And it's super cute. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to have to add that to cart pretty soon. But so anyway, I just stamped this. I'm doing it in the Misty. And the Misty, this is the original size Misty. And it's not really big enough. I'm just being honest. So I only needed to stamp this one little corner. So I didn't think it was too huge of a deal. But I did have a little bit of trouble lining it up, and I'm not sure if it's because it moved when I was picking it up. But especially, you'll see when I go to stamp the top left corner, like the stamp, which is common of background stamps, kind of picked up some ink on the background. But then I got that ink onto my background, but I think that the reason it is because half of my stamp is up on the border of the Misty, and it's kind of like at a downward angle, which is, it's not laying flat like it should be, but I was trying to make it work, what I had, make it work. But anyway, that was the only little thing I noticed. But they have a ton of these, and they're super cute. And I wanted to use it as the background for my shaker. Now, if you've been around my channel any length of time, you know that I don't make shakers all the time, just because sometimes I find them a little bit challenging. This shaker, however, the connected circle shaker dies, totally game changing. And I know that there's other ones out there on the market. I've just never tried them, honestly, because I wasn't really motivated to make a shaker. But now that I know how easy it is, maybe I'll be motivated to make some more. So this darling little image, I thought she was super cute. And I don't very often get to color people, just because I guess the companies that I normally work with don't have a lot of people. So I was like, ooh, I want to color her. She's adorable. And so that is what we are going to do. I just picked out some colors in a little bit of a blush color. Now, with her hair, this is one of the things, and who else is it? I think it's My Favorite Things. They have like the little sparse hair dolls. And so sometimes it can be challenging to figure out how to color them. I approached it as if I could see lines for her face underneath, then I colored her face. That is how I approached those kind of little wispy hairs in the front. And then you're going to want to add some shading around the outside of her face where her bangs lay on her face. For her hands, it's going to be on the outside where it's kind of wrapped around the watermelon. And then for her neck, because of the way her head is angled, there'll be more shadows on her, at like, well, we're looking at it would be her right hand side because her head is cocked that way. And then once I have my darkest color down, I'm going to go in and then just work out to my lightest color. This is not the way that I have always colored, but it is the way that I am coloring more often as I find myself less heavy-handed. So, but if you need to start with your lightest color and then work out to your darkest and the darkest back into lightest, no shame in that. I've done it for years, and there are times when I'm really working an image that I'm not comfortable with that I still do it. So whatever way works for you. So moving out to my lightest color, and then once I am happy with the way that looks, I will go in and add her blush cheek. Now, originally I picked an R11, which was cute, but just not blushy enough. So I did go back in with an R32. I apologize for not showing that on the screen. I was just enjoying my coloring, and then I added a little bit more blush, blended it back out with the R11, and then with the lightest color again anywhere I thought that needed it, and then her face and hands and neck are done. From there, I picked some colors for her hair color. I ended up going with more of a brown combination. And again, you can go with whatever kind of hair you want her to have. I went with a darker brown, honestly, because that's the color of my daughter's hair. So here, because her hair is in these cute little braided pigtails, we're going to add shading from her part. That's obviously would be darkest. And then down like from the roots of her bangs. But then also in the braid, there should be a little bit of darkness on the top and the bottom of each section. So you're going to color them in sections in order to get that dimension. But there should be a little bit of darkness at the top and the bottom. Now, if you have a smaller section, you can use the darkness from the section right up above it to create the separation. But if you have, like hers are a little bit smaller, but if you have a larger illustration that has more braid, you'll want to do it at the top and the bottom so that the lightest portion is in the middle. And this is going to really like bump up that dimension to make it look as if the hair is woven together, how it does in real life when you have a braid. Now for her little wispies at the end of her hair, I am doing the same thing that I did with the sides. I'm just putting color right over top of it. I'm not going super dark. This is my second to lightest color, and this will be the one that I start to bring down around her face. And I'm just going over the lines that are already there. Because the lines are there, it does give the indication that there would be wispier hair or lighter, amounts of hair there. So that's why I saved it for my two lightest colors to just blend those out. But ultimately, if you're doing somebody with a much darker hair, you may have to go a little bit darker, but because I chose like a medium brownish color, it really wasn't a big deal to go in with those lighter colors and put in the wispies at the end and around her face. So then once that is done, we'll move on to her outfit. I chose to do a green sweater and blue jeans because I knew that watermelon was going to be red and it was going to be like the focal point. So I didn't want her sweater to be like, well, I guess I'm calling it a sweater, but it could be a t-shirt, I suppose. But anyway, I didn't want it to be red on red. So I wanted to create that contrast, which is why I opted for green. So there is an Instagram hop going on. I know we're like 10 minutes into the video and I've already lost half of you, but it's fine. There is an Instagram hop going on, and it is open through the 16th. Picket Fence is generously giving away a $75 gift card to the store. So I will link that below if you want to go over and you just, hop along, leave a comment, subscribe, all that jazz, to be entered to win. Plus, you can see tons of other super talented artists and their inspiration. So here, I just wanted to show you, this is a lot of color. This is a lot of colors for one little piece of watermelon. But the reason that I needed them is because that 000, I need it to blend into that green, like the whitish part of the watermelon. I was trying to give myself that little area, which I think we did achieve, but I have to be able to blend it back into the really bold reds. And that is why you see me having so many colors. I also chose to use the, what is it? R11, R35, and R29 for the flowers in her hair. So they won't be quite as dark as the watermelon, but they'll be the same color family, so they'll be complementary. But anyway, so head over to Instagram if you want to enter to win. Now, it's very funny because in the last video, we were kind of talking about catching up on stories, and it's super fitting that this is a picket fence video for when I talk about this part of the story. It just worked out that way, honestly. So I briefly told you guys that I went to Creativation. I went and worked in the picket fence booth, and they were strangers. I had met Nicole once in person at actually Create, and then Jen I had never met. She's from England, and I've talked to her on the phone, but that's it. So I show up there. It's a Saturday night at an Airbnb, and there's like a ton of people in this house. So there is Nicole, who is the owner, her husband, Matt. He owns his own separate business, but he helps with hers as well. And then her mother-in-law, Madeline, and her father-in-law, Lewis. And and then the design team coordinator, who is Sarah, and Jen, who's a social media manager. I am literally the only person in this house who is just like hey, I make card videos, like that's what I do. But anyway, so they, from the moment that we walked in, were so hospitable. Like, they were so wonderful. They were very kind. They were having a lobster bisque for dinner. And Madeline makes, I can't say it, I want to say pralines, but she pronounced it pralines. But I'm not from Louisiana, so I can't say it the way she says it, y'all. So anyway, like literally my husband like comes in, meets everybody, is dropping me off, and they are giving him a to-go container of this lobster bisque and a little baggie of these pralines to take home with him. Just so very kind. So like, introduced around, showing my room, how are you doing, all of that stuff. And then I spent the next 2 days with them. And like when we talk about like supporting small businesses, I think that there is often people, because we're ordering online and there isn't necessarily as much face-to-face interaction, it kind of gets missed, like what a small business is. And this is a small business. This is a family-owned small business. And so her mother-in-law is the person who works with her retailers and packs your orders. Her name is Madeline. She's quite lovely. And her husband, Matt, like sets up the booth, takes it down, packs up all the stuff, also takes orders if needed, Nicole as well. And then her father-in-law, like he was like literally made us, like I woke up the next morning to breakfast, like he made us scrambled eggs and biscuits and bacon, like that's what I woke up to. Like he made us breakfast. So very kind. And then like we went and worked the show, came back as soon as we walked in the door, like dinner was done, because he had made us dinner, and like they were just so wonderful. But I have to tell you that even though like Matt and Nicole, Jen, like everybody was lovely, my favorite person was Madeline. She was my favorite person. I loved talking to her. And actually at one point, listening to her story, which is fantastic. She got married when she was very young. Her and her husband opened a, business. Basically, they took out like a mortgage on their home and opened a business in the hope that it would work. It was developing film back in the day, and then they expanded that to photography. They then, when the digital age came about, they still kept the photography side of things, but they turned the developing portion of it into a Baskin Robbins, because when the kids would come with their families, they would say, if you're good, we're going to go get ice cream. So they opened a Baskin Robbins. The Baskin Robbins did well, so they took the other side of it, and they ended up opening, like making it a bakery. And her father, said that like her father was so upset when she got married, because she was so young, that he didn't talk to her for like 2 years. And she said that her husband told him, like, I love your daughter and I will give her a good life. And then when they, years later, when her dad came around and they had, had their children and everything, he told her, like, he kept his word. He really did give you a good life. But my favorite thing about Madeline, this is totally 100% selfish. She was lovely on her own. But my grandmother grew up in, like, Oklahoma, Mississippi, Alabama, like in that area. And so a lot of the things that she said, or her turn of phrases, were very much like Graham. And like, I just enjoyed talking to her so much and hearing those same things, because it just made me think of my, my graham cracker. And I really enjoyed spending time with her. That was an unexpected blessing on this trip. So please know, when you order from Picket Fence, Madeline is packing your orders, and she is wonderful. She's genuinely wonderful. Okay, so let's talk about the shaker. So here, these little connector dies, this rolling foam. So there's just a wax, I put a piece of wax paper behind it, and then I ran it through my die cutting machine just like I do anything else, and it creates this circle that makes it so easy to put the shaker together, because you don't have to worry about messing with the foam. It's it's adhesive on both sides. And then the pieces, parts around it, like, I just cut them in half so that I could use them to stabilize the rest of the card with the same amount of foam. So here I've picked what is this? Is it periwinkle? I don't know. It's a beautiful blue. I love blue. Blue's my boyfriend. So I picked a blue to mount this on, which is the same blue that I outlined the images in. And now I'm going to adhere my acetate to my cover piece, which the connector die also has like a little decorative stitched circle, and that's what I used to cut this portion of it out. I showed you both of them. I ended up going with the, what was it? The 3.5, but they have all kinds of circle sizes. Here's where I made my error. You see what I just did there? I pulled the backer piece off and I stretched out my circle. So I do think that when I do this again, because it's a thinner piece, and it would be on cardstock too. But I stretched out that foam. So I think what I would do next time is, before I completely remove it from the die, I would peel off the backer piece, so that I did not have the opportunity to stretch it out. So I did have to go in here you'll see me, and I'm just going to trim out like the stretched out piece and then reconnect it. And then I didn't have any issues with it, holding. It was still sealed, but I did the stretching out myself. I did that. That's not a reflection on the die. And then once I had that in place, then I'm going to start trimming these pieces to kind of fit around there so that the rest of my card is stable. Here's the other thing I did, because I'm not perfect. I'm just making this up. And this actually, a shaker card would normally take me a really long time. This whole card, coloring included, came together in under an hour. But I decided that I wanted to have that blue border. And so I can't put it together like a traditional shaker card. Normally, I would take off all of my peelies and then I would flip it, flip my card base on top of it. This little, what is this? I told you earlier, now I can't remember. Watermelon Crush. So this has got little watermelons in it and little seeds and yellow and green sequins. And Nicole actually makes these herself, the owner. She puts the mixes together herself. And in her garage, nonetheless. So truly family-owned business. So anyway, here I'm about to put the back on, and I realize that it's not going to be centered, because I have trimmed this down. So now I'm like, okay, can I eyeball it from the side? No, ma'am. No, sir, I cannot. It is what it is. So I just flip out all of my sequins into my hand, put them down into the center, and then this way I can actually position the piece on top of my filler instead of positioning my card base on top of my foam. So this way I knew it was going to be lined up, and you were still going to be able to, the card was going to look like it should, like everything was. was lined up the way that it was supposed to. And I did have to go back in and adjust it a little bit, but that's not any different than any other card I've ever made. So I also cut like a blue circle out of the connector circle to see if I wanted to use that as a border. And it was just a little bit too big because I used the largest size, I think. So I decided that I was going to leave it off. And I was just going to go with my cute little girl and the little sentiment right on top, and then do a couple of extra sequins. So anyway, I loved talking to Madeline, and she totally, like, for the what is it, Creativation, like, they gave away little baggies of these pralines. She's going to come for me because I'm not saying it right. But like, she hand makes them. Like, I was sitting at the kitchen table and she was like, the pralines are done. Y'all want one? Like, she was so adorable. And they were still warm. And I was like, these are delicious. I ate 4 of them. I'm not making that up. That is true. And I brought some home and I didn't feel bad about it. But anyway, like, just very, very sweet, wonderful. So when we talk about, like, as crafters, that we get to meet these people, and I understand that you couldn't possibly meet all the people in the industry, but when we are saying to you, please support small businesses, this is exactly what we are talking about. Because they're trying to make a living and bring you all these wonderful things, but they're also their own people with their own stories and their own histories, and just delightful. So anyway, I did add a little bit of a shadow underneath her feet, just because I felt like it made sense. I didn't want her to be floating in the middle of the air, so I did a shadow there, added my couple of sequins around, and then I did go in with a white gel pen, added some highlights to her flowers and the little seeds in the watermelon, as well as like the rind, and her little tennis shoes. And then I went in with a, a clear glitter pen, and added some glitter, because you guys know I love the shine, to her flowers as well as the watermelon. And then I called it. It was so fast. It was super easy. I think she's adorable. I hope that you learned a little something and enjoyed story time today. So thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate your time, and I will catch you guys on the next video. Bye.